Before the world ever heard the name Abraham, it already knew a very different kind of hero. In ancient Mesopotamia, the kings were not just rulers, they were demigods, men who claimed divinity, men who demanded obedience, men who built cities and towers, not for the people, but for their own immortality. They told their citizens what to think, how to speak, and even what the world meant. In their kingdoms, truth flowed only in one direction, downward from the throne. This was the world into which Abraham was born. A world shaped by legends like Gilgamesh, a king described as 2/3 God and 1/3 man, a hunter whose strength was unmatched and whose ambition burned hotter than fire. His epic tells us everything about the ideology of the time. Greatness was measured by domination, by conquering the natural world, by tearing down the realm of the gods and shaping it to his own will. The epic celebrates a man who destroys sacred forests and challenges heaven itself, as if the universe exists simply to bow before him. And this worldview did not stay inside myths. It defined real kings, the archetype we call Nimrod, who ruled through control of speech, control of thought, control of language itself. The story of the Tower of Babel describes a society where the whole world was one language, not because everyone agreed naturally, but because disagreement was forbidden, unity was enforced, conformity was mandatory, and the king stood at the center of it all, declaring himself the voice of heaven. But in that world of absolute power, one man learned to say no. Abraham grew up surrounded by statues, rituals, and doctrines enforced by kings. His father carved idols, his society worshipped them, and yet Abraham's mind remained unbent. While others saw gods in the sky and kings on thrones, Abraham saw something different, a world governed by a single creator, invisible, moral, transcendent, and therefore a world in which no king could claim to be divine. This was not just a theological idea, it was a revolution. The Midrash paints the picture beautifully. When Abraham is challenged by Nimrod to worship fire, he asks, "But what of water, which extinguishes fire?" When told to worship water, he responds, "But what of the clouds which carry the water?" When clouds become the new god, he points to the wind, which scatters the clouds across the sky. And when Nimrod finally hears that man can withstand the wind, his patience ends. "Then worship me," he declares. "There is none stronger than I, except fire, into which I will throw you." Abraham's rebellion was not arrogance, it was clarity. He understood something that still threatens tyrants today. If there is one God, then no human being is God. If there is one truth, it cannot be dictated by kings. And if every person is created in the image of the divine, then every person is free. Freedom of thought, freedom of speech, freedom to question, freedom to disobey injustice. And in a world where these freedoms were unheard of, Abraham stepped into the fire. The Midrash tells us he survived, not because nature bent, but because truth refused to bow. And after leaving Mesopotamia, Abraham traveled city by city, teaching a revolutionary idea. God is not a statue carved by kings, nor a power controlled by priests. God is the source of all existence, and therefore every human being stands equal beneath heaven. This is why Abraham is called Ha-Ivri, the one who stands on the other side. Everyone else stood on one side, obedient to Nimrod, bowing to the ideology of power. Abraham stood alone on the other, insisting that no ruler is above the law, no king is above morality, and no human has the right to silence another. This, more than anything, is the birth of Jewish philosophy. Not simply belief in one God, but belief in one truth. Not simply rejection of idols, but rejection of tyranny. Not simply the story of a man, but the story of a worldview, one that empires have tried to crush for millennia. From Babylon to Greece, from Rome to every oppressive system since, the same battle continues. The struggle between those who seek control and the children of Abraham, who insist that the human spirit cannot be conquered. And yet, here we are, thousands of years later, still telling the story of Abraham, and struggling to remember the names of the kings who tried to silence him. Because Abraham never sought to make his name eternal. He only sought to call out in the name of God. And in doing so, his name became eternal on its own. This is the legacy we carry, a legacy of courage, of clarity, of standing on the other side when the world insists that only one side exists. A legacy that whispers to every generation, do not bow to false gods, whether they are carved from stone or carved from ideology. Do not surrender your language, your mind, or your spirit. And when all the world stands together in unthinking unity, dare to be Abraham.